Saturn. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
1, 2, 3.
This is The Ticket High School Saturday.
Well done, well done, well done.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Let's go 3-0, and let's come sit down and drink some Gatorade.
Live from the Koppel Chevrolet GMC studio, here is your host, Nick Sainert.
Good morning. Happy Saturday, folks. This is the 93.7 The Ticket High School Saturday Show. I am Nick Sainert, hanging out with you for an hour this morning. We have a lot to get into. It was another busy week in the high school landscape. Beatrice played Norris. We'll talk to Joe Davis here in about 10 minutes or so. He'll break down that one, and then at 9:30 we'll be joined by Luke Mullen of Prep Extra at the Lincoln Journal-Star, giving us all the information on that. What he kind of saw this week. There were a couple good games. Obviously, Lincoln East and Lincoln Southeast played on Thursday night, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Connor Happer from the Ticket here was on the call for that one, so we have some highlights to get to. Talk about Noah Walters. I called the North Star and Pius X game last night. Kind of went in surprising fashion, if I will say so myself. I did not see a 36-14 ball game coming when I was preparing for that game. And maybe it's just because I was way wrong, but I did not see Pius's running game being as successful as they were last night, especially junior running back Matt Bowie. We'll talk about him a little bit. I did not see just North Star not able to move the ball coming, basically. Zach Friedenberg, senior quarterback, Tony Cobes, the head coach of North Star, decided to shift away from his senior quarterback and go to a sophomore quarterback in Braden Sunken. So we'll talk about that. Also, there's been kind of a talk this week of why Noah Walters, the Spartan quarterback, hasn't really gotten recruited or talked about a lot. I want to dive into that a little bit with Luke Mullen. There's a common thought that maybe it's just because he's too short, and that very well could be it. But man, oh man, if you saw or heard about his performance on Thursday night, it was fantastic, especially against one of the better teams in Lincoln Southeast, or what we thought to be one of the better teams in Lincoln Southeast in the city, right? Those two teams are basically the top of, the charts in Lincoln East and Lincoln Southeast, that is. But man, on Thursday evening, Lincoln East showed that they're kind of a step above. And I guess this ties into that a little bit. I want to talk about the gap that there is between Lincoln High School football and Omaha High School football. And how big is it? And that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. All hour long, 402-464-5685. Send in your thoughts. If you have a player, as always, if you have a player that you want to shout out, you want to talk about, feel free to send them in on the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685, or call in. We'd love to hear your thoughts, 402-464-5685, as well as on the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream. We are live there, even on Saturdays. You can see my face there, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Throw your comment there on the screen, and we'll be all good to go. It's going to be a busy Saturday like it is every day here at the Ticket. Following, you already heard the Husker Online show from 8 to 9. I'll be with you guys from 9 to 10. We'll take a little bit of a break. And then at 3:30, the Ticket Tailgate pregame show will begin, preparing you for Nebraska and Michigan State. And then immediately after Nebraska-Michigan State, you'll have me, Connor Happer, and Rico for the Husker After Party postgame show. And then following us, after a 90-minute show, we'll send it out to DP at Tanner's. So it's going to be a little bit of a late night. So buckle in. It's going to be an exciting one as well. So I guess let's go ahead and start with Lincoln East. And I don't want to talk about this too much necessarily because, number one, it got talked about a ton yesterday. But they kind of deserved the spotlight this weekend, in my opinion. They're now 4-1 on the season. And Thursday, they kind of proved that they're definitely the best team in Lincoln. They looked as impressive as possible, in my opinion. I mean, Happer and I were talking about it. Nobody saw a running clock coming on Thursday night. They didn't have to punt until halfway through the third quarter. When that happens, that's usually a pretty good sign, right? I mean, Noah Walters was impressive. He started 7 of 7. He threw 4 touchdowns in the first half. He finished with 5. He had over 350 yards in the first half. Here's his final game stats. 23 of 30 through the air, 437 yards, 5 touchdowns. On the year, he has 22 touchdown passes to 1 interception. And that's something I talked about last night, beginning in the pregame show of Pius X and North Stars. Something that Pius struggled with, more specifically, was holding on to the football. Well, they didn't have a single turnover last night, and you kind of saw how the game planned out. Noah Walters is looked extremely impressive and kind of solidified himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the state, if not the best quarterback in the state. You have the kid from Gretna that his name is out of my mind right now. I can't think of his name. But you have the kid from Gretna. You'll be able to see Millard West and Lincoln East next Thursday here on the ticket. So we'll be able to see Millard West go up against Noah Walters and Lincoln East. Also, it kind of helps that Lincoln East does run an air raid offense. I don't want to act like that's not what they do. I mean, that's what they want to do. They want to pass the ball. They have quite a few running backs. They were missing Hunter Epp on Thursday against the Knights. And so they had to really lean on Billy Stevenson out of the backfield. And he did his job. Like, even in the receiving game, Billy Stevenson did just fine. But at the end of the day, they want to pass the ball, and Noah Walters is the quarterback to do so. And I guess there was a little bit of talk about Malachi Coleman as well, and he had a slow start to the season, but really Thursday night he broke out, had a couple TDs, and you kind of understand why he's getting looks even at the Division I level from guys like Iowa State and those type of schools. And you could probably throw Kansas State into the mix and maybe a Wyoming or something like that. I mean, give credit to John Gingery and company for Lincoln East. And this is where I'll dive into it even more with Luke Mullen here in about 20 minutes or so. But even when they were up big coming out of the first, or out of halftime, I should say, they did not let up. And that's something that, I mean, I don't want to call people out, but you see that at the high school level and sometimes it's hard to continue the intensity or match the intensity from, quarter to quarter, especially when you're up big and maybe it's not even a ball game anymore. It's tough to continue that intensity the whole way through. However, give credit to Gingery and company and Lincoln East, because in the second half, they come out, they score in 3 plays, bam. Talk about ripping the heart out of your opponent, right? They didn't feel bad about it. And part of that's because it was a rivalry game and you love it. But part of that's like, hey, we're here for the taking. We're going to show that we are the best team in the city, and it's not even close. And they did. It was 47-10. That was the final score. It was unbelievable. And, it's a little concerning now, I guess, on the flip side of that for Lincoln Southeast, because now you're looking at Lincoln Southeast and head coach Ryan Gatula, and you see all these playmakers on their team. You can throw Wilhelm Reddick in there at quarterback, Jake Applegate, Tatum Tubioti, the son of Tony Tubioti. You have the Husker baseball commit in 2023, Max Butenbach, who out of the backfield has been kind of shut down the last couple games. And I guess that's just opponents planning for him, maybe. But you got to give credit, and you kind of wonder now what's going on with Lincoln Southeast, because I'll be the first one to admit I thought they were better than Lincoln East. Coming into the season, I thought, oh yeah, there's Lincoln Southeast on tier 1 and Lincoln East on tier 2. And I guess Lincoln East proved me wrong. And I was, like I said, Happer was calling that game. Well, I was in the studio board opping for him and producing it for him. So I was able to hear the whole thing, and it was really, really impressive how everything kind of just unfolded. And I like I said, and this, I'll wrap it up with a bow because I believe Joe Davis from Ambition Electric is online. But we always talk about the gap between Lincoln and Omaha, and I'll get to this after we talk to Joe and stuff like that, and maybe I'll ask Luke about it in a couple minutes. But I'm not sure if Lincoln Southeast, if it's because they're missing Wilhelm Reddick, or McGinnis Schneider. They had to replace him with Wilhelm Reddick, and he's just a younger quarterback. I'm not sure if the offensive line isn't as strong as they were expecting it. maybe people don't know how to think of the offense with Reddick in there instead of McGinnis-Schneider, because people were just so used to that combination from Schneider to Butenbach or Schneider to Jake Applegate. You know, they had to replace Tavion Thompson, who's at Nebraska now. They had to replace Derek Branch, who's at Nebraska now. Those are two wide receivers that two weapons on the perimeter that they don't have this year. And so maybe they just aren't sure how they want to work the offense yet with a newer quarterback. And that's okay. But it's got to be frustrating for head coach Ryan Gatula when you come in and you're projected as one of the top teams in the city. And then you kind of get embarrassed in the last 2 weeks. One of them was to Creighton Prep, and now it's to Lincoln East. 402-464-5685. As always, Starter Heyman text line, Honda of Lincoln hotline. Sorry, there was a little bit of dead air there. I had to pull up a chair here. All right. We are going to go to the Honda of Lincoln hotline, where I believe we are joined by Joe Davis of Ambition Electric. Joe, is that you?
It is me, Nick. How are you this morning?
Not too bad. How are we feeling after last night?
I'm a little raspy, but we'll get through it.
I hear you. Yeah, yesterday it was kind of a busy day for myself as well. So I'm sure you were yelling and screaming more than I was, but we'll work through it together. So Norris, they had to face Beatrice, which Beatrice 5-0, right? And so I guess just overall thoughts. I haven't done a ton of looking into this game this morning and stuff, so I'm going to rely on you to do a lot of it. Talk about the game. What stood out about Beatrice? What held Norris back? Just an overall thought on the game, Joe.
You know, Nick, there's an old saying: if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Nice, that's a good one.
But I said it 2 weeks ago when we played Bennington. I think it was 2 weeks ago. They exposed some of Norris's soft spots and weak spots, and Beatrice watched the film. Point blank, they're running back Deegan Nelson right up the gut, play after play after play. Beatrice came out in power eye. They went away from it for a while, and then second half they came back and they ran power eye the entire second half. And you know, they watched the film on Bennington. I mean, that's the only way I can explain that. And I give it to our coaches. They put in a lot of time with these kids. It's a thankless job. They spend hours and hours on film coming with game plans. But I'm not going to make excuses for the team. We're down several starters, several playmakers, and we've got some younger guys stepping up, and, you know, they're a work in progress, and that shows. But we've got to figure out a way to stop that run. We've got to get bigger up front. We've got to get linebackers moving the right direction. But last week, Big Sky asked me if last week's game was a make it right, and I told him I didn't think so. I said this week will be the true story of what Norris football is going to be the rest of the season. And I hope I'm wrong. But all the teams we face are bigger than us. The only thing we have more of than any of these teams is heart. We were down last night 14-0 after first quarter, and those boys came out swinging. Second quarter, they did what they had to do. They tied the game. You know, it was 14-all going into halftime. They just needed to come out of the locker room with the same fire. And Beatrice made some adjustments and went back to their game plan, and it worked for them.
I guess I haven't really asked you this question. We've talked about him, but I haven't asked you this question. For the people that don't watch Norris necessarily, what kind of quarterback is Cooper Hausman? How does he like to not necessarily run the offense, but what is his strongest skill set, if that makes sense?
He's probably got the biggest heart of anybody on that team. Cooper is quick on his feet. He's a quick thinker. They put a lot on him. I mean, they rely on Cooper to run that offense. He's got a big arm. Last night he had 2 throws. I'm going to guess, I didn't actually measure them, but 40 to 60 yards on the money. I mean, there was only one place to put that ball, and he did it. And those were 2 or 3 big touchdowns because of it.
Mm-hmm.
He extends plays. I mean, he's a little quick to leave the pocket. He's got, a little bit of happy feet at times, but the kid, he'll take a hit. He'll get back up. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal athlete all the way around. And I think he's going to go places here in his, in the next 4 years. I think you're going to hear about him.
Yeah, Cooper Hausman, I'm looking at his stats from last night. 182 yards, 3 touchdown passes last night, one of those being from 48 yards out, like Joe just said. We're talking to Joe Davis of Ambition Electric, joins us every Saturday here on the High School Saturday Show to give us a little breakdown on Norris. Now, Joe, I guess you guys are sitting here at 2-3 now. You have a tough matchup against Plattsmouth coming up next week. I believe they're undefeated as well. How do you kind of right this ship a little bit? What do you have to do to turn it around here?
You can't take a day off,
mm-hmm.
period. These boys have to go to work every day, whether it be film, whether it be on the field. They need to make it right with themselves. They need to come together as a team like they did last week and keep each other pumped up, keep each other focused. And we've got, 4 games left.
Yes.
They can't lose one. I mean, they've got to get out there. They've got to go head to head with Plattsmouth at home this coming week. They've got to go out and put a stomping on Crete. Then it's,
I believe it's Pius then, and then it's
yep.
Waverly.
Yep, Pius and Waverly's our last game, and Waverly's a tough team. They always play Norris hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if last year's score doesn't fire these boys up to go out and whoop on them this year, then I don't know what will. But they can do it. This team has heart. I mean, top to bottom, doesn't matter if they're a sophomore or senior. These boys have the fire. They just need to get their heads right and get back out there and battle, just like they do at practice, just like they did last week. And they can't let this one knock them down.
Yeah, that Pius game you'll actually be able to hear here on the ticket. But I guess one more or a couple more here before we let you go. Is this, and this might seem like a dumb question, but I actually kind of want to hear a thoughtful answer from somebody I know that is going to tell me the truth and tell it real. Is this team capable of competing at in the Class B level, like at the top of the Class B level, when it comes playoff time? And why do you think, however you think?
I'm going to say yes. There's no if to it. They just have to bring it. I mean, we watched the first game of the season against Elkhorn. Coaches made adjustments. Players went out and executed. In the second half, the boys came together and played as a united team. I mean, they were arm in arm coming back out after halftime. They played like that last week. They played like that against Elkhorn North. Bennington, they had some slop. There was a lot of mistakes in that game, but they still came together and they never gave up. They can finish out this stretch 4-0, but they've got to come together, and then they can, at that point, if they can stay together through those next 4 games, when they hit the playoffs, they can do some damage. They can cause some upsets. And I'm hoping they get the opportunity to take on Bennington again and take on Beatrice again in those playoffs, because I think they can right their wrongs. Yeah,
I think that Norris fans, and just kind of knowing what kind of program Norris football is, and Ty Twarling as a coach, I'm not concerned about them not competing down the road, if that makes sense. Plattsmouth, like I said, just to preview the schedule a little bit, Plattsmouth 5-0 record, Crete 2-3 as of right now, Pius the 10th the same way, and then Waverly is 3-2 right now. So, I mean, Plattsmouth is, if you can get past them, it's not facetious to say that those are 3 very winnable games following that one next Friday night on October 1st. So, Joe, one more before we let you go here. Not related to Norris. Do you have a prediction for Nebraska-Michigan State this evening?
That's the hardest question of the day, Nick.
I know. Tell me about it. Welcome to my life, right?
I'm going to go 27-24 Nebraska. Colt making it right.
All right. I think that's something that Husker fans would like to see. Joe, have a great rest of your Saturday. We appreciate the 10 to 15-minute conversation we have every Saturday morning. We'll talk to you next weekend.
Sounds good, Nick. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. That is Joe Davis of Ambition Electric here. Talking about Norris, like I said, Norris, it just seems like they can put a half of football together, and then it seems like something happens, whether that's a turnover. Cooper Hausman had 2 interceptions I read last night. And so if they can just hold on to the ball, I mean, it's the same story with every team, right, guys? Hold on to the ball security, do the little things right, and you're going to find a way to win. And you should be okay there. Like I said, we're going to talk to Luke Mullen of Prep Extra at the Lincoln Journal-Star here in a couple minutes. He was at Beatrice and Norris last night, so for Beatrice and Norris haters, I'm sorry, we're going to continue to talk about it a little bit, but it was probably the most competitive game last night in terms of programs going at it. Beatrice obviously undefeated. They stayed undefeated, improving to 5-0. Norris, unfortunately, dropping to 2-3 there. But he was at Beatrice and Norris last night, so we'll get a little more insight from him on some of the players, even for Beatrice. And then, because now Beatrice is a team to watch in Class B, if they weren't already. 5-0, you always have your Waverly and Elkhorns and stuff like that, and you can throw Norris into that mix because it seems like they're competitive most of the time. But now Beatrice is one of those teams to watch. And so we'll talk to Luke Mullen. He was also at Lincoln East and Southeast on Thursday. We'll talk about Noah Walter's performance, talk about what's going on with Lincoln Southeast, just why are they struggling on offense so much. I'm not sure. That's what maybe that's the way to look at this is I don't think they're struggling on defense despite allowing 47 points. I think something that's more alarming is their offense not scoring points. They're extremely balanced. However, they just aren't able to move the ball down the field. And on the opening kickoff, I believe Will Barrett was the returner there. He had a pretty strong kickoff. And I remember listening to Happer on that call thinking, oh man, Lincoln Southeast, here we go. Boom, right out of the gate. But man, it was a tale of 2 different quarters basically there, saying that Lincoln East came out guns a-blazing basically. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the differential and the gap between Lincoln High School football and Omaha High School football. And I want to make sure I reiterate this. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's bad that Lincoln High School football is below Omaha High School football. I'm not trying to say that's bad. I just don't know if anybody's ever really looked deep into it to where, how big of a concern is it when it comes playoff time? Because you're always seeing the same teams, Bellevue West and Millard South, basically are the 2. And maybe Omaha Burke was up there a couple years ago when they had Xavier Watts and Nick Henrich and those 2 guys especially. But I want to reiterate that. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Because I do think Lincoln is somewhat evenly matched, more than we think. And maybe Lincoln Southeast performance or lack thereof on Thursday kind of showed us that. And so we'll go ahead and take a break. 402-464-5685. Keep sending in your thoughts. We have a lot of them to get to here. And so, but when we come back, we'll sit down with Luke Mullen of Prep Extra here on the High School Saturday Show on 93.7 The Ticket.
And now more Straight Talk from Straight Talk. The big wireless companies say they're the only way to get the best coverage.
Because they've got like a cajillion cell towers?
Something like that. But Straight Talk Wireless runs on those same towers, so you get the same great networks for up to 50% less.
I wonder if they're counting that one in Kickapoo, Kansas.
Oh boy. Switch today and get our unlimited plan for just $45 a month with 25 gigs at high speeds and no contract. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise.
Savings may vary. See straighttalk.com.
Allstate now has deeper savings, and deeper savings require deep thoughts and a deep voice, like mine. Save for being a new customer. Save more for adding DriveWise, and save even more for driving safely. Visit allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. As someone once said, saving today is money tomorrow. That's deep.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. Drive-bys is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
You can search online for hours to find the best electricians in Lincoln and the surrounding area, but I'll save you time. High Electric has been serving their customers for 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They're experts in everything electrical, from remodeling to new additions, hot tub installations, electric vehicle chargers or EV chargers, lighting, ceiling fans, and more. High Electric takes jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at highelectric.com.
One host has a red beard and thinning hair. The other also has a red beard and thinning hair. One host got married over the summer. So did the other one. One is a diehard fan of a sub-500 AL Central baseball team. So is the other. Can these two radio hosts do a show together without getting confused as to their own identity? The same couple. Happer and Schaefer. Weekday mornings from 8 to 11 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
What are you doing, Sip?
I thought the chickens could use some more light in their lives.
So you're building what exactly?
It's a motion-censored switchboard. Duh.
Are you sure you know what you're doing?
Of course.
Ow! God! Ow! Seems like a job for a professional.
Just one more wire. Yep, there you go, right there.
Don't be like Sip. Call Joe and Ambition Electric for any of your electric needs at 402-217-3415.
At Gaina Trucking, you can make a better income, a better career, and a better life. Gaina Trucking and Excavating is now hiring Class A and B CDL drivers. Careers include amazing benefits with a 401k, healthcare, paid vacations, annual raises, and so much more. 40-hour work weeks guaranteed year-round. To be a part of this amazing career opportunity, apply online at GainaTrucking.com. Don't miss our team culture, benefits, and a career that will give you a better life. Be better at Gaina Trucking and Excavating.
Tailgating wasn't just meant for weekends. Join 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday at Chick-fil-A for Tailgate Tuesdays. Scan your app with any purchase on Tuesdays and you'll be entered to win a tailgate meal for 15 people. That's chicken nuggets, fresh fruit, and iced tea or lemonade. Winners will be contacted each Wednesday, and you can come see Tom and Bach from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the 48th and O location or at South Point each week. It's Tailgate Tuesdays all season long at Chick-fil-A in Lincoln. The Ticket, High School Saturday on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into the Ticket High School Saturday show. Nick Sainert here from the studio. Just a friendly reminder, buckle in all Saturday here today as we'll be bringing you Husker football pregame coverage starting at 3:30, and then we'll take you late into the night with some postgame coverage as well. We will be joined by Luke Mullen of Prep Extra, the Lincoln Journal-Star, here in just a second. The first High School Saturday morning show is sponsored by Ambition Electric, your source for quality, reliable electrical work. Contact Joe Davis at 402-217-3415 or learn more at ambitionelectric.com. As always, 402-464-5685, Honda of Lincoln hotline, Sutter Heyman text line. Actually, we just had some breaking news about 30 minutes ago that I just saw on Twitter, and involving LJ Richardson and Bellevue West along with Wyoming. So that's a good place to bring in Luke Mullen of Prep Extra at the Lincoln Journal-Star. Luke, how are we doing today?
Awesome, Nick. Great to be back for another Saturday morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you betcha. We appreciate it every Saturday. I enjoy our conversation. So I guess I was going to start with Noah Walters and his performance on Thursday, I should say. But let's start with LJ Richardson. He committed to Wyoming this morning, I saw. Tell us about what kind of back the Bellevue West product is.
Yeah, well, I think you got to respect the grind for LJ a little bit. You don't see many kids committing at about 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So good for him waking up early and getting that decision out of the way. And yeah, you look at Richardson, and that's just the guy who makes big plays. Mm-hmm. He's got great speed. He's always breaking ankles out there on the field with his jukes, his cuts. And I think he's going to fit in great at Wyoming. I mean, I don't know exactly how much the recruiting interest was with other Division I or similar level programs, but I mean, to go out in the Mountain West, that's a great conference, a lot of great running teams. And, you have to think that his skill set is going to translate very well. Obviously some better athletes at the next level, some guys who are a little bit harder to get by, but I mean, that speed and that kind of field vision that he has, that stuff is pretty instinctual.
Are we surprised? Maybe this is not the best question. Are we surprised that he went to Wyoming? Because personally, for me, I think I kind of projected him as even a higher level prospect than that. Are you surprised that it was Wyoming, or is that kind of all the option that he had as what you know of, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at some of the schools who are recruiting Nebraska heavily, mm-hmm. or are just like have a good beat on the area. And we've seen Kansas State kind of come on a little bit this last year. You have to think anywhere nearby, like Missouri, obviously the North Dakota schools, South Dakotas, those are always big. But yeah, now that you have Craig Bull out at Wyoming, I think they're putting some pretty serious attention on Nebraska. And I mean, for good reason. There's obviously a lot of talent here in the state. Pretty much borders Wyoming, easy to get some of those kids. It's just a state away, Mm-hmm. And I mean, the success he had at North Dakota State kind of speaks for itself. He's doing a great job up there at Wyoming. You look at Bergen's Koa McIntyre, Scott's Caden Becker. If you think keep that Nebraska pipeline strong out to Wyoming, they might try to keep that up here in the coming years.
Yeah, I guess we can stick to recruiting. That was a really good point. I guess I kind of missed and walked over that fact of Craig Bull being there and that his relationship to Nebraska kids. But let's kind of stick with recruiting. I guess we can relate it to this. Noah Walters of Lincoln East had himself a heck of a day on Thursday night. I know you were at Seacrest for that game, a game that I wouldn't hesitate to say we all thought was going to be a little bit closer. What's the reason that Noah Walters isn't getting more attention? Is it really just because he is because of his height?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of frustrating, I'm sure, for him to have, the understanding that if he was just a couple inches taller, he would probably project a little bit better in some college coaches' eyes. And, for football wise, schematics, there's obviously a lot of different decisions, I guess, and, reasonings that coaches put into that. But hey, I mean, there's short quarterbacks making plays in the NFL. I mean, there's no reason why a guy who's maybe a couple inches below 6 foot can't quarterback at the college level. And especially when you look at Walters, I mean, the windows that he throws into for a high school quarterback is just incredible. He has great anticipation of the defense. His numbers kind of speak for itself. I think he's 22 touchdowns, just 1 interception.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of how tall that guy is, I think somebody should sign him up,
Yeah. Well, I mean, how can you complain with that? I know he had 5 touchdowns on Thursday night as well. And so against a defense, I guess let's flip it over to Lincoln Southeast now. And I was talking a little bit about this before the break. What's going on with Lincoln Southeast? They've struggled to put up points. They lost to Creighton Prep big the week before. And then obviously now they got a touchdown late there against Lincoln East. What's going on with Lincoln Southeast?
Well, I think, obviously it has to do with their offensive identity a little bit. I mean, they're a team that's built on running the ball, playing strong defense, controlling time of possession, kind of slowing down opponents, grinding the game to a pulp. And that worked pretty well. Those first 2 games, wins over Omaha North and Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
They had a real tough road date against Grand Island, couldn't really get the offense going. And, ever since that Grand Island game, really the offense just hasn't been the same. They got Max Butenbach, who's always going to get about 25 carries a game. He's a real workhorse. He's going to get you those 3-4 yard gains that you need to kind of put together drives, consistently grind out first downs. But really just the passing game has been non-existent for Southeast over the last 3 weeks. You got a guy like Jake Applegate, who's probably one of the top 5 wide receivers in the whole state, and he's getting 3 or 4 catches a game, which is pretty rough. They're trying to find ways to get him involved. I see Southeast, they run trick plays pretty much every week just to get the ball moving, try to get those playmakers in space. But yeah, unless they can find a way to consistently throw the ball a little bit more, I think they're going to keep struggling here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I know Thursday they struggled to get Applegate the ball until late in the game. I know you just mentioned that as well, but it's definitely got to be frustrating for a guy like that, where he's bigger than everybody on the perimeter basically, and they're still struggling to find a way to get him the football. So let's go ahead and go to a game that you were at last night, Beatrice and Norris. Beatrice moves to 5-0 on the year. Tell us what you saw from the Orangemen, because before the season, you always hear about Elkhorn, and you can even throw Norris into that mix, and Waverly and Scud, I suppose. But I personally didn't really know Beatrice was going to be this good. Tell us about Beatrice.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few question marks coming into the year for Beatrice. They first round playoff exit last year. They had a pretty uninspiring 4-win season. They were a decent team, but you wouldn't really peg them as a top 10 contender. They had a first-year head coach coming into. I know he had been an assistant there before, so he definitely had a good amount of experience. But regardless, they had a lot of moving pieces. You think about the depth in Class B, and then all of a sudden, they come out of nowhere, reel off this 5-0 start, and it really has to do with the strength of their offensive line. I was just blown away. They have guys who are just huge. They were dwarfing over the Norris defensive line a little bit, not just in size, but in strength. They kept moving that line of scrimmage a couple yards down the field. And hey, when you get that rushing attack, first half, it's like, okay, we're going to slow it down a little bit. Second half, you're just gassed, hands on your knees. You can't slow them down. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Beatrice controlled the ball about the entirety of the second half, pretty much never gave Norris a sniff, which was incredibly impressive.
How good of a quarterback is Cooper Hausman for Norris? What are his strengths, and then what's something that he needs to work on at the quarterback position for the Titans? They're sitting here at 2-3. They have next week, I believe, against Plattsmouth, and then they have 3 winnable games in Crete, Pius, and Waverly. So what is he going to need to do or turn around if they want to eventually make the playoffs here?
Yeah, I mean, really his best strength is kind of just keeping plays alive. He's one of those quarterbacks who's going to roll out of the pocket, try to make it to the sideline, extend the play as long as possible, and hope that his wide receivers kind of come back to him or find a nice spot in the defense that he can throw to. And, he's one of those kids who's always going to try to make a big play. He's in there on defense too. He's got real grit. I saw him getting his leg taped up a couple times yesterday. So injuries can't slow him down either. But, at the same time, when you have someone who's always trying to make that big play, I think he threw a couple interceptions yesterday. Those turnovers are gonna cost you really when you have a team against you who's looking to run the ball and control the clock. So yeah, just making sure that some of that big play ability doesn't always lead to erratic plays, I think will help him a lot down the stretch.
I guess I mentioned this a little bit earlier before you came on and joined us, but a lot of people like to talk about the gap or how much of a gap there is between Lincoln's talent or Lincoln High School football and Omaha High School football. How big of a gap is there between the Omaha teams and Lincoln teams?
Pretty big, honestly. I didn't come on the show last week. You're down in Norman. Hope that was it was a blast.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
But last week was kind of an interesting week, especially for the Class A teams in Lincoln, just because, the way the schedule shakes out, typically there's going to be a Lincoln versus Lincoln matchup each week. But the last week, all the Class A teams were spread out. They were all facing Omaha or, similar area teams. And only Lincoln East came away with the win over Millard North. All the other Class A teams in Lincoln lost their games. And yeah, there is a pretty big gap. And, something else that you have to consider, this is a little bit more long-term, but, we've got 2 new high schools opening up in Lincoln in the next couple of years.
Yep.
That's going to dilute the talent pool even a little bit more. I know Lincoln East, part of the reason they've got such a strong program, they've got great enrollment, at school. They have a lot of people up at that school. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially how those 2 new high schools will impact high school football in Lincoln as well.
That's a good thought there. Talking about Lincoln East, one guy just came to mind that I want to touch on here. Malachi Coleman has kind of burst onto the scene on Thursday, and thankfully for him, because he was having a slow, kind of frustrating start to the year. What's his deal with his recruitment? Because I know looking at his social media stuff and everything, he's talking to Iowa State and those kind of schools. Do you have any update on him or who's talking to him at all?
Yeah, well, I know it really started this summer. He went to Friday Night Lights and really kind of impressed. I know that put a spotlight on him a little bit. He's a track kid too. He's always running track in the spring. So you have to figure there's some college coaches looking at that speed and going, okay, we can use that guy. Definitely. I think one of the interesting things for Coleman too is he's mainly a defensive end on the Spartans. That's where he starts. But obviously he rotates in at wide receiver, always capable of a big play. I talked to him after the game and he's like, hey, college coaches, wherever you want me, this game shows that I can do it both sides. He had two sacks, a bunch of tackles, forced fumble on defense, 2 touchdowns on offense. So, it's one of those guys where, he's 6'5", he's got great size. It's like, hey, where do we even put him at? So I think college coaches are maybe trying to figure that out themselves. I think it's pretty hard to ignore what he does at wide receiver with that speed. So that might be where I would maybe project him as, but definitely the recruiting interest has to get a lot more after that last game, you'd think.
Yeah, one more before we let you go, Luke. We're talking to Luke Mullen of Prep Extra at the Lincoln Journal-Star here on the High School Saturday show on the Ticket. Luke, I guess, what are some of the games that you're looking forward to next week? What are some of the games that fans should, maybe, hey, go out to Seacrest or go to some small town and go take a look? What are some of those games to watch next week?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of interesting matchups. You got a lot of Lincoln teams facing really good opponents from Omaha. Seacrest on Thursday night, it's going to be Millard West facing Lincoln East. They've got a stud running back up there at Millard West versus, Noah Walters, the passing attack of Lincoln East. That'll be quite interesting, 2 of those different offensive philosophies. And I'm also really interested to see on Friday night, then Lincoln High playing Lincoln Northeast.
Ooh.
They're both 2 and 3. Those are 2 teams, depending on how their district is going to shake out, that, maybe they're going to be able to sneak into the playoffs if they string together a couple wins. So, whoever makes that win gets up to 3 and 3. That's going to be huge for the rest of their season, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess I want to correct myself. I made a mistake earlier talking about Millard West quarterback. It's the Millard West running back. It's Nathan Peterson, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the guy to watch against Lincoln East next week. Luke, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. Also, are you hanging in there? I mean, we're a couple weeks into the season, and you're as busy as they come. Are you hanging in there?
I took my first day off of the season on Wednesday. So
oh, perfect.
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Well, get some more rest. We'll talk to you next Saturday, and maybe I'll see you at Seacrest next week.
Sounds good. Thanks for chatting, Nick, as always. Appreciate it.
Yep, that is Luke Mullen of Prep Extra at the Lincoln Journal-Star. Great stuff as always. Great insight, more than I would be ever able to give you guys. So that's why I like bringing him on, just because he's super knowledgeable about many teams around the state. Let's go ahead and take our final timeout. When we come back, we'll get to some of the highlights from Happer's call on Thursday between Lincoln East and Lincoln Southeast. Blanked for a minute there. And then we'll also talk about some other games around the state next. One final timeout here on the High School Saturday Show.
Tailgating wasn't just meant for weekends. Join 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday at Chick-fil-A for Tailgate Tuesdays. Scan your app with any purchase on Tuesdays and you'll be entered to win a tailgate meal for 15 people. That's chicken nuggets, fresh fruit, and iced tea or lemonade. Winners will be contacted each Wednesday, and you can come see Tom and Bach from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the 48th and O location or at South Point each week. It's Tailgate Tuesdays all season long at Chick-fil-A in Lincoln.
When you choose ethanol at the pump, you're not only saving money, you're saving livelihoods. Nebraska is the second largest producer of ethanol, which is proudly made with locally grown field corn. Every time you fill up with higher ethanol blends like E15 and E85, you're supporting Nebraska farmers and strengthening our economy. Right now, only about 3.5% of Nebraska-produced ethanol is actually used in Nebraska. Let's do more to support local agriculture. Fuel a stronger tomorrow. Choose ethanol. Learn more at getbiofuel.com.
We take our college football Saturdays so seriously at 93.7 The Ticket that one post-game show simply isn't enough. Join Husker Hall of Famer Jay Foreman and DP for The Ticket post-game. 90 minutes following each Nebraska game at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. They'll break down the game from their vantage point and bring in special guests as well, with giveaways to listeners who drop by. It's The Ticket postgame with Jay Foreman and DP at Tanner's Bar and Grill. Sponsored by Action Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning and Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm Insurance.
There's not many things worse than having plumbing issues at your home or business, but it's even worse if the problem isn't fixed correctly. Select Plumbing gets it right the first time, and they specialize in several things: general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, sewer and water underground repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate at 402-560-6197. That's Select Plumbing at 402-560-6197.
Where will you go next? The Southeast Community College Fall 2021 Continuing Education Schedule of classes is arriving in your mailbox. Learn CPR and first aid, or choose a path in trades and industrial technology like automotive or welding, or computers and technology like social media and web development and design, or 19 pages of personal interest classes like making door signs or woodworking. The entire schedule is online at southeast.edu/continuing. SCC. Your path to possible.
Hey man, can you hook me and my friends up with some alcohol for tomorrow night?
What's happening?
We're going down to the lake. It's gonna be epic.
All right, but you're paying.
Awesome. I knew you'd come through for us.
Unit 21. Go ahead. Report of a drowning at the lake. Fire and rescue en route. Copy that.
Hello, officer? What can I help you with?
You're under arrest for providing alcohol to minors last night. One of the kids that was drinking drowned. You're looking at up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine.
Don't make the same mistake he did. We don't need you to be cool. We need you to be the responsible adult. Underage drinking, adult consequences. There's no free ride if you provide. Learn more at projectextramile.org.
Sponsored by Region 6, Nebraska DHHS, and SAMHSA. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Ticket High School Saturday on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Back here one final time on the Ticket High School Saturday show. Nick Sainert here in the studio, hanging out with you guys. This show is sponsored by Ambition Electric. your source for quality, reliable electric work. Contact Joe Davis at 402-217-3415 or learn more at ambitionelectric.com. We have a couple minutes left here. We get this off the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. Appreciate you guys' input all show long. You guys have been great. Have you looked into Sterling, they ask. Honestly, I had not, but maybe I need to start. Because let me tell you guys, and this is, we've talked about this before of coaches not putting in stats. Unfortunately, Sterling is one of those schools that they need to put in their box score. But let me tell you the score, the margin of victory for Sterling here. They beat Hampton 61-6. They beat Elba 77-6. Parkview Christian 49-16. And on Thursday, they beat Deschler 57-8. So, wow. Maybe I need to talk to the coach down at Sterling or up in Sterling and say, maybe you need to come onto the show and tell some people what's working. Why is something working so well for you guys? So appreciate that input. I'll definitely do some more research on them. They face Dorchester next Friday on October 1st. All right, so we talked to Luke Mullen a little bit. Thanks to him. Thanks to Joe Davis earlier in the show for coming on and helping us out, giving us some insight into Norris, and then giving us insight from Luke on everything else. I want to get to some of the highlights that you could have heard on the ticket here. This was Lincoln East and Lincoln Southeast. I know that's been the most important game that we've talked about to this point. Here's Connor Happer on the call, calling some of the first half highlights from Lincoln Southeast and East.
Noah Walters out of the shotgun, and he will ride that handoff and finds Malachi Coleman on first down. He is wide open with nobody in front of him. A slant route for 79 yards, and East is on top 6-3. Play action, Reddick on second down. Pump fakes now. He's sacked from behind. Coleman got his hand on the ball. It's loose, and it's picked up by the Spartans. Did he throw it first, though? No, he did not. It is Spartans football, and it's another monster play from Malachi Coleman. Trips right. Walters drops back out of the shotgun, throws, looking toward Coleman, back in the end zone. What a ball. Did he come down with it? Yes! Oh! Malachi Coleman, his second touchdown reception of the evening. And Noah Walters dropped it right in the bucket. Drops back to pass. Walters now flush. Tuioti got on him first, but he stays alive. Walters now dashing out near far sideline, and he's out of bounds at the 30-yard line. Noah Walters making a play with his leg. Out of bounds at the 31 and a pickup of 17 yards on a scramble. Tuioti had him behind the line of scrimmage and lost him.
So there was Connor Happer on some of the highlights from Lincoln Southeast and Lincoln East. A lot of Noah Walters there, unfortunately, for Lincoln Southeast. Now, some of the ones from last night you could have heard here on the ticket from Pius X and Lincoln North Star. Pius X won 36-14. Here's some of those calls from that one.
Cole Strupa and Sammy Manzito, the two receivers on the near sideline. Thunderbolts going left to right from my vantage point as Matt Bowie will go out left, tries to bounce out, finds the edge, and he's going to walk into the end zone. Matt Bowie from 17 yards out scores his third touchdown of the night. And the Thunderbolts of Lincoln Pius X take a 21-0 lead with 8 minutes and 46 seconds left in the second quarter.
I want to mention Matt Bowie had 3 touchdowns last night, folks. Had 3 touchdowns in the first half of, I believe it was 19, 11, and 17 yards. He went off in the first half for Pius X. Here's another Pius X touchdown here. I believe this one went to James Frank, the tight end and defensive end for the Thunderbolts.
Joe Stahl will be alone on the far side in one-on-one coverage. See if Pecci decides to go his way. Looking. They're going to have James Frank wide open in the end zone. Touchdown. Lincoln Pius X, James Frank. James Frank with a 7-yard reception to go along with his 4-yard touchdown reception earlier at the end of the first half, I should say. Extends the Thunderbolt lead to 35-6 over Lincoln North Star.
So there was James Frank, and then one more that I want to get to before we wrap this one up. This was Dylan Hallett. Dylan Hallett and Jace Elliott are 2 of the top receivers on Lincoln North Star's squad, and they had to wait a little bit to make their fingerprint put their fingerprint on the game last night. And this was Dylan Hallett catching a ball in double coverage for a touchdown here. You could have heard it here on 93.7 The Ticket.
10.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter of play. Thunderbolts up big, 36-6 here at Seacrest Field. Glad you could join me on your Friday night. Sunken looking deep, left side. Pass is going to be caught. Touchdown, Lincoln North Star. Dylan Hallett somehow, some way was able to snag that ball out of midair in double coverage by the Thunderbolts. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, Sunken is able to connect with Dylan Hallett. We've been waiting for him to make a mark in this one. He's done it a little bit on the special team side of things, but this time, finally, he breaks through and finds the end zone on a long touchdown pass from Sunken to Dylan Hallett.
So that touchdown pass was about 45 yards and much needed for the Gators. That will do it here. We have about a minute left on the High School Saturday show. Sterling, I believe, is 8-man football. We were asked on the text line there. So we'll do some research. Please, I'll reach out to some of the people out there in Sterling, see if I can get them on the show or talk to some of their coaches and stuff like that. If you have any connections, please find me on Twitter, Nick_Sainert. Love to chat with anybody from small and big schools all week long. Find me on Twitter, Nick_Sainert. Appreciate you guys chiming in all show long and spending your Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. with me. Don't forget, little after 3 o'clock, around 3:30, we'll start with Husker football pregame coverage as they get ready for Michigan State this evening at 6 p.m. And then after the game, after the final whistle, you'll have Happer, me, and Rico for the Husker After Party postgame show, and then we'll send it out to DP following our 90-minute show. That is all for today. Thanks again to Luke Mullen and Joe Davis of Ambition Electric. We'll talk to you guys next week. Are you dragging through each day? Most people are dehydrated or deficient in essential vitamins, minerals, and more. Live Hydration Spa helps you get more out of your life with their IV hydration treatments to help with anti-aging, weight loss, endurance, and more. Their performance packages can help you feel better doing your normal daily routine with boosts of energy